you doing? This is Andrew Sims with the Sims Consulting Group. And we're going to pick back up where we left off on Wednesday, man. And we're going to continue this Fight On session. This is going to be Fight On Part 2 on this Servant Leadership Sunday. Just to kind of continue, like I said, because a lot of different conversations that I've been having have been circling around this, weathering the storm type of vibe, man. So I wanted to make sure that if I don't get the chance to directly work with you as one of my clients, that I do give you some good information as far as to, press in, keep pushing, man, some motivation. Again, I'm not real big on being a motivational speaker. That's not really my goal, man. My goal is, again, it's about the process, but at the end of the day, I do understand the importance of having something that drives you, something that motivates you, or somebody saying that I understand or I empathize with what it is that you're going through as far as a business owner, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, from a self-employed standpoint, from a pastor, father, whatever it is. For somebody to say that I understand that there are tough times when it comes to being in business. And again, specifically, a lot of the conversations I've been having have been dealing with, making businesses, making the budget meet, making the ends meet, making sure that the business is around, a couple years from now when things do get better. And again, we talked about it on Wednesday. They are predicting a pretty big recovery once the vaccines start to take hold. We're at 100 million something now. But as we get to the stage where they can say, we've reached herd immunity, or we're at a safe place for people to kind of move about, and all these restrictions are not in place, that all the economic indicators are stating that we're going to have a pretty vast recovery. So again, if your business is not in the place it wants to be, well, I encourage you to, put those things in place to make sure that your business survives to the point where we start to see those uptakes and, in economic movement and things like that. And, take advantage of the PPP things that are out there, and also become creative with how you deal with your customer, how you run your business. We talk about that all the time. Understand how your supply chain works. What are any bottlenecks in that process that you can cut out that are costing you money? How does everything how is everything working? Are the processes that you have in place, are they productive enough to warrant you putting resources behind those things? So you want to make sure that your business is as lean as possible at this particular point in time. There's not a lot of fat in terms of economic savings or whatever have you, in order to just overlook some of the things that you were able to overlook in the past. So you really have to be a good steward, even more so at this particular point in time in American history, world history, really, as far as business goes. So we're going to start in James chapter 1 verse 12, and it says, chapter 1 verse 12 says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." Now, we know this is talking specifically about something spiritual, but the principle remains the same. And we're gonna take a part of this to really get the principle from it. It says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, having stood the test, that person will receive." So let's pause right there. Blessed is the person who perseveres. We all have this. We're all going to have to persevere something in terms of our business, whether it's it's economic downturns, whether it's getting the product to market, whether it's product setbacks, whether it's design setbacks, whether it's processes that are not working. There are always going to be things that we have to address and we have to persevere under in order to get to the stage that we want, where we're operating at a level that we want the business to operate in. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're not comfortable with having to persevere under the trial, then you need to, and I don't want to say this to be harsh, maybe you need to rethink what it is that you're asking God for, if it's a really big dream. For the most part, right, when you're self-employed, or you're an entrepreneur, or you're a pastor, right, or in other words, when you're at the top, when you're the husband, when you're the father, right, in terms of a family, or like I said, a pastor, a business owner, there's really, outside of you, you're at the top tier, right? Now, of course, we know we take everything to God through prayer and supplication, making our requests be known, right? But let's just keep it in a natural standpoint for a second. There's no place to go, right? Gary Vee talks about it. He says, man, my job is to put out fires. He spends all this, he says, I spend most of my time putting out fires, right? Meaning there are things that happen every single day, whether it's clients, whether it's business processes, whether shipments don't go right. There are always things that are going to happen in the course of living life, doing business, managing a family, that if you're not prepared to persevere and be able to deal with the trials of life, then it's going to be really, really tough for you to last at really anything substantial. So, what this is saying is, blessed is that person who's able to do that, because again, after that perseverance process, you're going to get the reward of what it was that you were seeking. So let's put it in context, right? For the father, you got your kids that look up to the you and your wife, or you and your spouse or whatever, and then your wife looks up to you, and you're really that head of that household. Or if you're the CEO, you're the head of the organization, or you're the pastor, you're the head of the church. So at the end of the day, when it really, you have to be the one that really holds it together under those trials. And that's why your relationship with God has to be, I get the information, I give it to him, because that's really the only way I've found as a business owner that gives me the ability to persevere. I have to take all the things that I'm dealing with in terms of the business, right? The numbers, the budgets, the processes, the products, whatever it is, the designs, the fulfillment, all that stuff. And once I've done all that I could do, right, from a business standpoint, right, I've done my due diligence. I have to then turn it over to God to make sure that those other parts of the puzzle work. Like, when you plant a seed, there's nothing I can do as a farmer to make the sun come out. There's even less that I can do to make it rain when you're talking about those types of agriculture. Now we have ultraviolet lights, and we have things that allow us to produce crops at a different rate. But at the same time, there's still, the principle still remains. Like, there are certain things you have no control over. And part of persevering is to understand those things and then be able to trust God with those things. Because having stood the test, remember, it's a test. It's a test, not necessarily God is testing you. God is really preparing you for the other side of success. Because again, we talk about success as an end goal, right? But there's two parts of success. Let's take a person that's going to lose weight. So at the beginning of the process, let's say you're fat, right? At the beginning of the process, or you're heavy, you're big boned. Let's say at the beginning of the process you're overweight. Then you work really, 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 really hard. You diet, you exercise, you do everything that you need to do to get to your goal weight. So now you're there. This is the point where we call success. You start your business, you have a profit goal, you get to that profit goal. The really hard part that a lot of people don't talk about, one is the process from start to finish, but the second hard part is maintaining that success, maintaining that weight. That requires a certain level of intensity, because that never goes away. And actually it becomes harder over time in some instances to lose the same weight, to maintain the same weight. You have to exercise more as you get older and things like that. So that's another part of the process, is maintaining the success we actually acquire. So the next scripture is James chapter 3 verse 1. It says, and it's going to be another valid principle, not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach be judged more strictly. When people are after the microphone, right? I'm not one of those people that after I'm here because I believe God has told me to do this, right? This is not necessarily a part of my character to where I want to stand in front of this camera and give out information, because those who teach will be judged more strictly. Now, there's two principles in that. One, you're going to be held accountable by the people that listen to you. Are you truly who you say you are, and are you implementing the things you tell them to implement? Are you who you say you are? Is what you say accurate? And are you truly doing what it is that you tell them to do, right? You can't be a do as I say type of person. You got to be a do as I do type of person when it comes to this little thing we call YouTube, or whatever it is that you're streaming this or seeing this on, right? Because it's on a couple of different platforms. You're going to be judged more strictly when you're the head, when you're the boss, when you're the CEO, when you're the executive, when you're the pastor, when you're the father. Because again, that title comes with respect, but it also comes with a certain responsibility to be accurate, to be who you say you are, and to be, again, living what you ask people to live, right? Or being in a position to do what you're asking people to do. And it says not many of you should go after that. Because, again, the responsibility with that, again, it goes back to the same point. The two parts, right? There's the part of starting and getting to the success. And then there's the second part of maintaining that success. Well, it's one thing to get in front of the audience. It's another thing to have the depth, the understanding, the skill set, to go on through the trials and errors, to be able to maintain that audience and then take them to a certain position, like from where they are to where they want to be. Again, not many should. That's why, again, I'm not a big person that says everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. This is not an easy. There are easier ways to become financially successful outside of entrepreneurship. There's a lot less heartache in having a 9 to 5 in some instances, right? So again, it depends on what God has called you to do, but the principle is the same. You got to be careful what you ask for, because times like this come with doing business. It may not affect the world. It may just affect your company. Your company may be going through a recession. The market could be great, but what happens when it's your company that's going through a recession? When it's your company that's having an issue? Are you able to persevere under trial, having stood the test? That person will receive the crown. Are you able to be that person? You got to ask yourself this, and I believe you are. I believe you are, because I believe you're stronger than you think you are. And I believe that you do have more depth than you think you do. And you probably know more than you think you know. Again, not to be proud about it, but a lot of people don't use the information that they get. You know, a lot of people go to school and never really use the information that they learn in school, or go to church and never really put these principles of God into play. We see it through tithe. I mean, if you believe God and you believe that tithing is a way to, if the Bible says, prove me now that I don't open the windows. How many people actually don't do that but are still believing God for the blessing? And again, I'm not here to harp on tithing, but I'm saying a lot of people don't do what they know to do, or what they say they know to do. So part of this is being understanding that you're going to have to persevere, and then making sure you realize what it is that you're asking for, and what it's going to take, and what it comes with. If you're asking for a six-pack, understand that you're asking for a lifestyle change. If you're asking to be a teacher or be in front of people, understand that you're asking for a lifelong process and a lifestyle change. And then fight on for those things. Don't let them go. If you believe that's what God has called you to do, then do it. Fight on, man. Fight on part 2. We're going to do more about this, man. We're going to get more into this. I got some work I need to get done, but y'all be blessed, man. This is Andrew Sims with the Sims Consulting Group. Peace.